Have you ever been on a roller coaster that goes up and down? Well, if you've been invested in the stock market the last few weeks, it's been a roller coaster ride, and it's primarily down. And Rodney and I know why. And we talk about that in this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School.
Even though I can't stand his ass, I keep thinking, yeah, you 78. Yeah, full of McDonald's. I know the Lord is gonna handle it, but I have to catch myself from not wishing He'd handle it a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what the guy that's on our board said in our last board meeting. He said, the Lord will take care of things. He may not take care of the way you want it or as fast as you want. He'll take care of things. I said, Brother Michael, I hope you're right, because I said it's a little scary right now, but I'm putting my faith in it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Because I tell you, man, this country's had it good for so long. They didn't lost, and the Lord is not beyond showing you by example. Just even the fact of that U.S. aid thing, it did a whole lot of good. There might have been some subversive stuff that went along with it, but that's the world we live in. But it did a lot of good, and you got to win the hearts of the people of a country. You can't just go in there like this idiot think he can just dictate to people and try to play like he's a strong man. So this boy is just, he's the epitome of DEI. Him and his whole cabinet, all of them don't belong there. Just a favorites hire.
Yeah. I say I miss giving it some time, and I may be up here 4 years from now saying I'm giving it some more time. But I just think so. I just think it's going to come to a point to where it will take care of itself. It'll come from the top. It'll crumble from the top. I just think that's what's going to happen. And I say I may be entirely wrong, but I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I hope something happens, because I tell you what, it is like he gonna tell Zelensky, you're teetering on World War III. No, your dumb ass is teetering on World War III, and it's gonna be right over here in this backyard. Because you pissing off everybody. It's just gonna be a matter of time for it. Like I said before, I think Putin is just playing him, because he's got a hard on for the United States anyway to conquer, and this fool is helping him and don't even have sense enough to know.
No. I feel the same way. I mean, if you just know the context of the Russian, the oligarchies and things of that nature, if you just know how they operate, that's exactly what they're doing. They try to curry favors to only come back and stab you in the back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's nothing that's not a known entity when it comes to people like that. What would give you the reason, like that British Prime Minister said, what would give you the reason to trust him? He's never done anything for you to trust him.
Yeah.
So why would you? Why would you do that? I mean, I appreciate him saying that. They've been one of our strong allies for years, but I appreciate him saying, yeah, why would you trust him? What has he done to give you the confidence that you could trust him? And that's all Trump keeps saying, yeah, I trust him. I think he's a man of his word. I'm like, when has he ever done that?
Right.
When has he ever done that?
Only an idiot would believe that.
Yeah. When has he ever done that?
And that's another thing that pisses me off about the media. Who was that? I think it might have been Abby Phillips on CNN, who was asking, why would we trust him? And then, damn, I had another point I was going to make. But she was, but she was just saying it out loud that most people don't say out loud. And just like with anything, which is what I pisses me off about the Democrats. You know, they done got to the point where they're so elitist and everybody is so smart that they done left out the people that need that, you know, uh, so the weakest of us can understand what's going on. We got to use these $100,000 words and use this conversation that you use in there on the floor where y'all all know what's talked about, but the people out here don't. The people will get inflamed just explain it in layman terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you sitting up here using all these damn big ass words. First off, you ain't got their attention. Number one, but as soon as they hear that, they're gonna change the channel. Well, anybody, and I know they know as much, or they just wasting our taxpayer money. But just like you and I, when we was in the military, we were always told to explain it at the lowest level, so the person can know your audience. You
Yeah.
know who you
And you
talk.
gotta do that. Yep,
Yeah,
you gotta do it ain't like you're trying to impress these people with your knowledge and your language and like you say, the $10 words that they use and, that's what I think got us Democrats in trouble this last election.
yeah,
I think their base that they had been counting on for years left them because they felt like they had become a party of the elitists. When you run all these people across the stage that are big time stars. All you talk about is education and all that kind of thing. You forget about the vast majority of people aren't educated.
yeah.
So I mean, not educated to that level. I should say aren't educated, but to those levels. And people, look up and say, "Well, that ain't me. That
Yeah,
that party don't look like me. So why am I going to go vote for them?"
that's right. And I fought and said for years, they ain't taking no, it's like we didn't have no sense. They ain't taking advantage of me. Hell, that's the best option for us. Hell, I ain't, hell, Americans didn't even let you come to the, Americans. Republicans didn't even offer you up to the table. Hell, they just said the hell with you. At least they offered a seat. They ain't do a hell of a whole lot, the Democrats, but they at least let you at the table. And it's just in the war out. And I think they got complacent and took it for granted. I used to say they didn't take our vote for granted. Like we're not a block to be taken for granted, but I was wrong, I guess. I guess we were. And now all Trump knew he had to do was send him a check, put my name on it. And now he's talking about sending out another bribe. Like one of my classmates, she's so dumb. She's on that. Well, he's the only president that ever gave us some money. I'm like, Trump ain't gave you. That was your damn money. To show you how stupid she is. She said that on a little forum they had on Facebook of our class. Boy, them folks jumped off. He didn't give you no money. That's taxpayer money. That's your money he gave you. I was like, damn, she too dense to see that.
Yeah, some people are. Some people are. But
Yeah.
like you say, you can keep people down. Some people are just that gullible. You give them a little bit and they shut up. Not
Mhm.
knowing the true value of what they're doing. They're just buying you. And like you say, you know, the Democrats they would promise a lot and deliver on very little.
Yeah.
To get your votes and things. But I mean, I guess you're looking at almost the best of two evils. At least they were offering something.
Yeah.
That's better than nothing at all. But and neither party by no means are a ideal perfect party, but you got to find some way to get your point across. At least they gave you an option or an outlet to be able to do that. You know, but yeah, it's funny how people team to forget where we come from and make those kind of statements. You just make you wonder sometimes what have you been looking at? What research have you done?
Mhm.
It just it bothers me sometimes when people make those kind of comments, especially in a public forum like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. I mean, now you just confirmed that you're a dumbass.
yeah,
You
yeah,
even say that. And it's and I'm beyond now of making excuses for these people. Well, well, no, hell no. You can't see the light. I mean, he's got a flashlight showing his face, showing you who he is, and you talking about, no, that's not who he is. Like, give me a break.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I say. That's what I keep telling people. He told you what he was going to do. He told you who he was,
Hmm.
and you still went out there and voted for him. So don't come up in arms now.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't like he hid anything. He had Elon Musk up there when they talk about what they was gonna do
Yeah.
to take down the government and stuff like that. But now that they're doing it, you're like, oh man, I can't believe he's doing that. Well, he told you he was going to do that.
Exactly.
So
And then you want to run around here. It just goes to show you how our folks, we love saying sayings and saying the word, but we don't know what the hell it means. First thing they want to say now, well, it's just like Maya Angelou said, believe, believe who they are when they show you who they are. Yeah, you say all that, but you don't practice it. I mean, what good is knowing who they are if you don't do nothing about it to counter it?
no,
You know,
no,
it's
no.
just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I kind of want to stay optimistic, but it's waning.
Yeah, I tell you, it's hard too. That's why I try to be sort of middle of the road because I know it's not an easy process, especially the way our country is made. But I also have faith that, as they say, the Lord's going to take care of things.
Yep.
He's going to take it. Like you said, it may take a long
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
you wonder where he's at. But I feel he's gonna take care of things. I just got to give him time. Just got to give him a little bit of
Yeah. I tell you, but we might
time.
not have enough time to see it, but
Well, that's the thing, as Martin Luther
I,
said, I might not get there with you,
yeah.
but I'm hoping we're gonna get there. I'm
Yes,
hoping we're gonna
sir.
get there.
I want to see him get his though. That's my thing. But
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, and I ain't saying I ain't trying to say the military is a cure all, but it definitely prepared us for adversity, if you will, and coming to grips with your decisions and make the best decision that you can make with whatever information you got. And when you're dealing with people that don't know anything about that, it's frustrating as hell, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, that's one thing they taught us. You gotta have a plan. You gotta do your research and stuff, and to where you make decisions and make plans. But still, they can't take away that emotional part of it. I know
Right.
they taught us those things, and we sort of live by that, but it still doesn't take that emotional part away because, as I say, we are human. So
Oh yeah.
that creeps into things too. But I agree. I think that was, as I tell people, other than marrying my wife, I think that was the best decision I made in my life. And in
Yes,
some
sir.
aspect, that might have been the best because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have even met my wife. So,
Yeah.
it,
Hmm.
yeah,
Or
I
and
appreciate that.
wouldn't have met her and couldn't afford one.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
I appreciate all the stuff that I learned while I was there, and I can see even today where I still benefit from that
Oh
as
yeah.
I deal with people. I'm like, boy, I guess I just didn't realize how much of a lesson I learned in those kind of things because
Oh
dealing
yeah.
with some of these people, I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
like you say, it just shows you sometimes the ignorance just is obvious.
Oh, big
And,
time.
and and I'm not only talking about educational ignorance. I'm just talking about common sense
Hmm.
ignorance. So yeah, I agree. I
And
agree that.
and 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 just repeating what's been a problem before you've seen, and you're repeating it all over again. Nobody's
Yeah.
making any changes. Just doing, you know. Well, my mama, my daddy said, and all that. Your daddy and mama said what they said because they were doing the best they could at that time. Times have changed. You got to grow the hell up yourself and make some decisions based on what you know and
Yeah.
how the things are now.
Yeah.
And but they keep and that and along with because I got a dude that I know, everything he talk about it. Oh man, they ain't been nowhere. They ain't been nowhere. I'm like, I can't agree with that. I mean, whether you've been somewhere or not, you can go all over this world just by watching damn TV.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm like, there are people in your hometown that are successful. They done figured out a way to navigate. So you can't say it's because they ain't never been nowhere. But I think it is now that I'm having to deal with a bunch of these folks because they just repeat what's been done, rinse and repeat in front of them.
Yeah. Because if that's sort of what you see every day, you begin to believe that that's the norm, the
Yeah,
way things should be. If you don't get outside your environment and see that there's a different way or a better way, that's just what you think the way the world is.
yeah, yeah,
So I agree. I think being able to be able to experience other countries, other states, other people, other nationalities, and those kind of things. I think it makes you a better rounded person. But if you
big time.
grow up and live in the same environment all the time and that's your world, you're going to get to the point where you start thinking the same way.
Oh yeah,
I
and then
wholeheartedly believe that.
you got that attaboy club where y'all all in the same boat and everybody, ain't that right? Yeah. That's for
Yeah.
y'all. I used to get in there in my younger days. I get down there and get full. I get right with them. Hey, look here, man. Well, think about it like this. Oh no, man. Ain't that right, brother? No, man. I'm like, well, I'll be damned. I guess the world has been waiting for y'all to come around and tell everybody else how to do it. And I still see you living at your mama's house. You got the answers, but you you
Yeah.
ain't applying them. And,
Yeah, I
uh,
see it too. I
yeah,
see it too. But but I always go back to that old saying. If you happy, I'm happy.
happy. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
happy in your ignorance. Then ain't much I can do about it.
But don't come at me and think I'm gonna justify it because I got so sick of that. Ain't that right, Rodney? I'm like, well, no, not exactly. I'm I'm trying to stay out of this because I don't
Right,
nothing
right.
I done heard here. But they gonna bring you into it. Ain't that right? No, not necessarily. But
Yeah, that's just like this guy told me last week. We had these young kids from high school. Uh, they were on like a panel. We had some panels from the college. They was asking them questions, and they were, high school kids, they were a little timid and little talking real low and everything. And he came up to me, yeah, Mickey, they need to speak up. They need to speak up. I worked out at that factory for 30 something years. I went from whatever to engineer and all that stuff. I spoke up and I told them what I was going to do. And I said, yeah, but you probably knew what you were doing too, didn't you? He looked at me like, well, yeah, I knew what I was doing, but I spoke up. I said I don't, and I'm like, well, yeah, you can speak up, you can talk loud all you want to, but if you ain't got the experience or the knowledge to do the job, I don't care how loud you talk. They ain't gonna give it to you. I said, but yeah, I appreciate the fact that you want to be able to express yourself and things of that nature. But it ain't all about talking loud. As I used to tell the guy at the barbershop all the time.
exactly,
I said, John, just because you talk loud don't mean you're right. You
exactly.
know, that don't mean you're right.
And
But
that is part and parcel. What I believe is that people that have a certain amount of knowledge, they think they're the authority and they just done lost track of you. You didn't always know what you know,
mhm.
but you basically are trying to be a little list person. They're unsure of what they're saying. That's why they're talking low. And you used to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
If
know?
they were 70 something year olds like you would, I'd be saying, well, damn, what's their problem?
Yeah.
These are 16, 17-year-old kids, and they were just in that kind of environment, like I say, out in front of an audience and things where, we had to tell them a couple of times, to speak up because we couldn't hear them because they were talking
Mhm.
so low. But yeah, just cause you talk loud, that ain't what I think got you that job. You had to know what you was doing.
That's
I
right.
can go in there and talk loud and I can't do nothing of the job that needs to be done. I don't care how loud I talk. I ain't gonna get the job.
There you go.
So I told him, yeah. I said, but you knew what you were doing too. You gotta have more than talking loud.
That's right. And that's why I always temper everything. Love education. Think everybody should get as much as they can or they want. But so many of us think that when we get education, that all of a sudden we are there.
Mhm.
Part of that education is knowing when to keep your mouth shut, knowing how to interact and deal with people. You can be the smartest sucker in the world, but if you ain't got no people skill, it don't matter. If you get the job, you ain't gonna have it long because the complaints gonna be coming far and wide. But you got to learn how to temper every experience you got to fit your situation. If you working with a bunch of clowns, you act like a clown.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I told the girl that got this panel together. Like I say, they were all from from the community college down there. And there was a couple, that had their masters. This one girl had her doctorate and stuff.
Mhm.
And I said, but you got to remember, they all have a vested interest. They're coming from a college. So their point of view is everybody needs to go to college. And
Mhm.
I said, that's not always the case. I said, there are people who've done very well who hadn't gone to college and got
Right.
college degrees and things of that nature. I said, I think next time, we need to have a little bit more of a diverse panel that has someone, maybe a college professor or whoever it may be, but also someone who went into, one of the trades and has done well, someone who's done other things that have done well kind of thing. Because I said, that panel had a vested interest in education because that's who they worked for.
Right.
And they were the lady that was the guest speaker. And I mean, once again, not trying to belittle people by any means, but she was a guest speaker and she was talking about how she, didn't go to college right after high school. And she went and, I persevered and I got my associate's degree and, I'm working on my bachelor's degree. And I just had to keep pushing myself. And I'm like, well, and that's admirable that you've done those kind of things. But I said, but you're sitting in an audience with people with bachelor's, master's, and a doctorate degree,
Mhm.
So you got to realize too that there's people that have, gone and done well beyond that, and there's different paths that people got to take.
Yep.
There's other ways to get to where you want to go. I just say you need to be doing something. If you don't want to maybe go to college and some of that nature, is there a trade that you can do? Or if it's just one of those things that where if you're fat, dumb, and happy, just doing sort of the minimum, that's fine.
Yep.
Just don't complain. Just
Exactly.
don't complain when, other people maybe are doing things that you wish you could and you can't,
Mhm.
But I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with somebody, you know, sitting back and doing the very minimum of whatever it might be. But just don't complain when maybe other people are able to do a little bit more than you. Just
Oh, yeah.
realize that. But there's more than one path to
Oh,
what we
definitely.
call success, if you will be. And I know success is always measured by different kind of yardsticks,
Yep.
but there are more than one. And sometimes, as we always say, just having a lot of common sense can take you a long way too.
Yes, indeed. And some of the more successful people in this world have no degree.
Yeah,
Uh,
very much so.
and my thing of it is I try to look at the overall picture. Like I always qualify and say, I would never talk against education. It's a wonderful thing to have, and what uh, it can take you places, but also a little hard work there, and getting into whatever you are into to the fullest and know what you're talking about can do the same thing. My thing is, I'm just with. I'm sure there's other parts. Well, I know there are other parts, other communities that do the same thing. But I'm just tired of black people acting like you have not done unless you got a college degree.
Mm.
The first thing they put that degree up front because that's supposed to get them a certain uh, uh, status, if you will. I mean, even hell, I was talking to some my folks down there one time. Well, he's got a degree, and I'm like, well, you can have a degree and still be the ignorant son of a bitch in the room because some people just went to school because it was something to do and were lucked up on a degree. I can talk to several people that I know that's got degrees, and I wouldn't put them in charge of a gang of 5-year-olds. I'm sure I'd find a 5-year-old smart, but we put a premium on that. Just like we was talking earlier today. Things have changed. At one point, it was that way. It's just like the key to economic success. It may not be buying a house now. It may be some other things, like old boy was saying. or same thing with education. Well, my mama told me to get my degree, but uh, uh, what's his name? One of them rich dudes might have taken interest in you. So, I like the way you handle yourself. I want you to come and work for me. No, my mama want me to get a degree. That degree it's gonna get you a different shirt in McDonald's sometime. But we don't have enough sense to discern when an opportunity hits us and go from there because it's all about that degree. I look at these football players and basketball players. Oh, he graduated. He got his degree. Yeah, I got that from my mama. Well, wait a minute. For your mama, she ain't using it. I don't know, man. Sometimes the play on words just frustrate me with that
Well, yeah, I mean,
to
I
each his
think
own.
I think, I think it's one of those kind of things. I look at myself and I've always wanted to seek education. That was my
Mhm,
personal thing. I always wanted
mhm,
to seek education. I look back and I look at my education. I'm very proud of it, but I have not really used any of my degrees in any of the fields that I've ever been in.
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, I got my education, I got my degrees, and I'm very proud of that. In some aspects, I was in the right place at the right time. In
mhm.
some aspects, I sort of, knew the right people and that kind of thing. Yeah, it helped me. I mean, it helped me understand the world and increase my knowledge,
Right.
overall knowledge of things. But
Mhm.
if you ask me, well, do you think uh, getting your education and getting your degrees help you move along and get to where you are now? And I would say to some degree, but
Mhm.
not entirely, by no means.
Right.
Now, if I had a doctor's degree and I was a doctor and a very successful doctor, I could say,
Yeah,
well, yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
couldn't be a doctor without my degrees, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a panacea just to say, hey, I got my degree. You got to do more than just say you got that. You got to look at what you're going to do with it.
Exactly.
You got to, is it something that's going to blaze a path for you? Yeah. If a job you want says the minimum requirement is a degree and you ain't got it, well, you can't even walk in the door.
Right.
You shut yourself out from walking in the door. But that don't mean that just because you got that degree, because guess what? Everybody else that was able to walk in that door, they got a degree too, and
Exactly.
you only gonna choose one person. So yeah, it's definitely not a panacea when it comes to stuff like that. I think, like you say, we sometimes get into using these buzzwords of, well, I got this or I got that kind of thing, and it just like I go back to that old saying. It seemed like just about every woman you ran into years ago would say, "Well, I'm a strong black woman."
Mhm.
Okay, I appreciate that, but by whose standards are you a strong black woman?
Her own.
What did that get you in life being a strong black woman? I think, and I always tell people, if you're a strong black woman, you ain't got to tell me that.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna see that. I'm gonna see that for myself.
Exactly.
I'm gonna see that for myself. So yeah, I think sometimes we do get caught up in that kind of thing and think that's always the pathway to success, and it's not always about that. You got to have other things going for you, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of very intelligent people with hardly no education and all. And there's a lot of very dumb people who have multiple degrees on their walls.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, it's definitely not a panacea just because you've
Exactly.
done that.
And that's all I'm saying. That's the thing that frustrates me is that ain't nothing utopian. We think things are always to, oh, well, that's where I need to be and that. It ain't that. It exudes the thought of, well, if I do this, then the hard work is over.
Mhm.
You know, that's supposed to get me in the door. That's supposed to get, and as I tell people, I said, hey, I don't give a damn how many degrees you got. If it ain't in the field that you're going in, somebody's gonna have to train your ass.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Very
you
much
know,
so.
so I'm like, so what? So what you having a degree got to do with it? You know, it shows you're capable of. Uh, if you got 8 years of schooling to get that damn degree, then that ain't showing a hell of a lot. But that shows you I might need to pass. but But if you got a degree and that kind of thing, hey, that helps. I mean, that definitely is a part of it, but that's not it.
That's no. That definitely is not the end all of everything. You gotta go well beyond that. 'Cause like I say, you got a degree, but so do thousands and
Yeah,
millions of other people have a degree.
yeah,
You gotta be able to sell yourself to use that degree to get you whether it's a job or whatever it may be. You gotta use it for that. You just can't walk up there and wave it because there's gonna be a lot of other people walking up there waving that.
better know it.
You gotta be able to do that too. I mean, this is like saying, "Well, yeah, man, I made it to the NFL." Okay, you made it, but what did you do when you got there? You know,
They cut your
it's
ass the
all
first cut.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's always good to say I made it, but yeah, you didn't even make it past training camp.
Yeah,
I admire you for being that good to be in camp, but like I say, that's where it ended at. So now what you gonna do?
yeah,
So I mean, it ain't no guarantees by any means. And I just think you gotta try to put all those different things together to do what's best for you. And if you're happy with what you're doing, whatever that may be, to me, maybe that's all life is about. Because I know
yes,
there's a lot of people who have very high paying jobs that are. I mean, just look at all the movie stars and rock stars and all who take their lives and things and talk about
oh yeah,
how miserable it was, and you think they're living the best life in the world.
yeah,
It's not always about that. You got to be happy in life. If you're not happy in life, you sort of wasted your time here. You got to have some happiness too.
yes, sir. And then you're living up to trying to live up to somebody else's expectation
Hmm.
instead of your own. So yeah, I'm all for it. People doing as long as they're doing something.
Doing something. That's the way I look at it too. That's the way I look at it too. Um, it's just like I see some of this stuff on my Facebook reels, and it showed a guy leaning on a shovel, and it said, uh, "How did it say it? Uh, God may have gave you the shovel, but you can't pray for a hole."
Yeah,
And I said, "Yeah," I said, "I think that sums up a lot of things,
yeah,
you gotta do something too,
yeah.
yeah, he may have gave you a shovel, but you ain't gonna you can't pray for a hole, you gotta dig the hole yourself,
That's right.
kinda thing." And I'm like, I said, "Now that is something that I'll always remember," as people
Yep.
they talk about the Bible, he'll lead, he'll open the door for you, but you gotta walk down the
You got
path,
there you go.
you
What
know,
good is the door being open if you too
if you get
damn scared to go walk through the door?
walking. That's
You know?
right.
Uh,
That's
uh,
exactly right.
because we were talking about, yeah, it's good to pray, but you got to get your butt up and go do something.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you, they especially women. Oh, I've been praying for God to send you a man, but hell, you got to make yourself presentable enough for a man. He ain't gonna just
That's
walk.
right.
God ain't gonna just send him through the door.
Ah,
You got to get out
yeah.
there and present yourself like a lady.
Hey, right,
You
right.
know,
That's exactly what that little saying was saying that I read on my Facebook feed. He gave you the shovel, but you can't pray for a hole. You got to do something yourself.
that's it. That's
And
yeah.
you got to be able to do that. And I think sometimes we get a lot caught up in that it takes more than just the prayers, which I mean everyone appreciates. You've got to make some movement yourself.
Yes, indeed.
You got to do that. So I agree. But yeah, there's no roadmaps in life, and even if there were, there's going to be potholes along the way. Main thing is do what makes you happy. Enjoy life. Well, we hope you like this edition. Join us next time for Old Fools Talking Old School. Till then, this is Mickey G. Peace.